Hi, folks! The Filipino P here. And today we're gonna look at what can happen if you end up with a Filipino who goes off the deep end. Maybe you cheated on her, or maybe she just thinks you did. But for whatever reason, she's gone rogue, and now she's trying to put you behind bars. So, what can she really do? Well, I've got an actual attorney here who can tell you all the legal tricks a Filipina can use if she's out to get ya. So before we talk to the attorney, I'd like to ask you to please click on my picture to go to my channel homepage where you can make sure you're still subscribed. Then hit the notification bell and select all so you never miss another one of my videos. Now let's get to it. All right, so attorney, welcome back to my show. How are you doing? I hope you and your
Yeah,
family are fine after the earthquake.
yeah, thanks for asking. My family is actually really fine. My heart is for all my fellow Filipinos in Cebu. It's a nearby island from Leyte. So we felt the typhoon, we felt all sorts of calamities recently. We survived. Filipinos are resilient, and my heart and prayers for all Filipinos here.
Yeah, actually, my brother in Cebu is participating in some relief operations because they're sending help to those victims. So, yeah, I hope everyone's okay. So, attorney, because the recent news stories about foreigners going to jail when their Filipinas accuse them of stuff, a lot of my viewers want to know if a man lives in the Philippines, what are the worst things a woman could do to a man if she really wanted to get him in trouble?
There are many things, and the first thing that come to mind is, of course, false accusations. Because the viewers in our recent video were actually shocked that they can be sent to jail by false accusations. Of course, we have trust in the legal system, but things might happen like false accusations. The Filipino might impute crimes that they did not commit. Particular examples, for example, is that the Filipina who has a child who is a woman, and then it's a common practice among foreigners to cohabit with Filipinas right away, and foreigners have to be wary of those practices because the Filipina might, in some ways, impute the crime of child for you being alone with the child, for example. I'm not saying it's a common practice, but it might happen, and that is actually a big crime in the Philippines, and it might get you to jail.
Okay, so if they're dating a Filipino with a child, they can accuse him of, yeah, that heinous crime. And aside from that, also she could accuse him of assault, that kind of stuff, attorney.
Yeah, and that falls under what I mentioned earlier about false accusation because the Filipina, it's always easy to accuse somebody of doing something, right? A Filipina can always accuse a foreigner of like, under our laws, we have the violence against women and children. So violence such as, the foreigner was allegedly being abusive to the woman. The foreigner is also verbally abusive. The foreigner has, made threats or physical maltreatment against the Filipina. So, I'm not saying that our laws are blind or favors Filipinas all the time, but I'm saying is that this is Philippine territory and there's always a little bit of favor. I'm just saying that those are some imputations that Filipinas can do against foreigners living here.
Okay, so just to let you know, guys, I'm not giving Filipinas ideas that this is what they should do, but these are very serious accusations. So you just have to be careful because those are the things that a Filipina can do to make your life miserable here in the
Yes.
Philippines. So
And
tread
Philippines
carefully.
is really a nice place to live, but there are just some Filipinas who love doing bad things against foreigners, take advantage of foreigners who come to the Philippines to experience love, company, family, and that's just a sad thing that there are Filipinas who do such things.
And what about emotional abuse, attorney? Does that count?
It may count, actually. It may count. So, what are some forms of emotional abuse? Maybe because of psychological episodes or depression that might be, Filipina can always allege those kinds of things.
Is it the same thing with verbal abuse? Maybe they
Yeah. Yeah, same thing. As I've said previously, that a Filipina can get expert witnesses, their friends or neighbors who can, tell lies in court and prove that you were guilty for allegedly committing verbal abuse. So I'm saying is that it's difficult to prove verbal abuse, but it's not impossible to prove it. Right, so they can have all the resources because they're in the Philippines and they're Filipina. So it's probable that you can be land in jail for verbal abuse. It's difficult to prove, but it's not always impossible.
Okay, so there are a lot of ways to get yourself in jail if you run into a diabolical Filipina. So just watch out, guys.
And there's still many. I'm thinking of maybe Filipinas who've had sexual relationships with foreigners before, and then they met you, and they'll tell you this is your child. All right, that's another case scenario, right?
Oh,
So the
yeah, right.
Filipino
Like paternity issues and
Yes. Paternity is actually one of the many issues that foreigners face in the Philippines because one day you're single and do not have child, and then suddenly the Filipina comes up and alleges that you are the father of the child. So that's another scenario, that worst case scenario that might happen to a foreigner here.
does that mean, attorney, that until he proves that the child is not his, is he liable to just pay child support, or how does the system work?
Well, in the Philippines, there's a presumption that it's your child if you're in a valid marriage. If there's no marriage, then it's there's no presumption that you are the father of the child, of course, unless you acknowledge that the child is yours. I'm not saying that you should not acknowledge. All I'm saying is that there are many ways by which you can disprove that the child isn't yours, that the child is yours. First is make sure that you have a timeline of the relationship. Highly improbable that the child is yours because you just met for like 3 months, and the child suddenly it's 9 months, of course, of bearing. So it's highly improbable that the child is yours. There are many ways like DNA testing, testimonies. So it's circumstantial. It's a totality of evidence to disprove that the child is actually yours. And another tricky situation is when you come to the Philippines and met a Filipina and unfortunately slept with a Filipina, thinking that the Filipina is single, but the
Oh,
Filipina ends up married to a Filipino. So that's another another worst case scenario for you. Because if I may ask you, P, what are the ways by which a foreigner can determine that a Filipina is single?
well,
Would you
for
trust a testimony? Would you trust that the Filipina said, "I'm single"?
no, get a Senomar first, and just make sure that the
Yeah.
Senomar is also valid and authenticated, because fake documents
Yes.
are everywhere.
Yes. Falsified documents are everywhere and easy to get. Yeah, so that's another worst case scenario because the husband might end up, beating you up, and
And
you might
extort
end
money
up.
from you
Yes,
as
yes.
well.
That's worst case again. And I'm thinking of Filipinas extorting money, as you've mentioned. And sometimes, how do they extort money? Sometimes they take videos of you doing sexual acts, right? And when you
Yeah.
have those videos, the Filipina has the upper hand and might extort a lot of money from you.
So they have to be careful doing hanky panky with a Filipina they just met.
Yeah, and make sure first that the Filipina is single. Second, that there are no videos around.
And also make sure that the Filipina is of age.
Yes. Now that you said that, the Filipina has to be of age because there are laws in the Philippines. If it's a minor, then it becomes statutory, regardless of the consent. All right. So if it's a minor, even if the Filipina gives the consent, it's still considered. So you have to be careful with the Filipina you meet, and the Filipina you do the acts with.
Because she could just say, I told him I'm 17, or
Yeah,
if they
and
just
there's always a
wanted money.
presumption. There's always a presumption that you should have known. You should have done something. You should have dated it way longer. You visited the family or you did a background check. And there's always so many things in our laws that might put you presumed guilty of, not presumed guilty, presumed at fault in those crimes.
Let's say, attorney, you're cohabiting with a Filipina. You're not married yet, but you're getting to know each other. Can you please briefly explain about economic abuse?
Yeah, economic abuse under the Anti-Violence Against Women and Children is when, simply in simple terms, the Filipina became economically dependent, meaning that the Filipina, without you, or because of you, the Filipina did not work, or you asked the Filipina to resign from work and to stay at home, and the foreigner will control the income, control the money, even the spending, or even the bank accounts. What else? The foreigner will sabotage the employment, the current or future employment of the Filipina. So in essence, the Filipina is dependent on the foreigner, and then out of the blue, the foreigner withdraws support, and the Filipina does not have anything to support herself. That can be an economic abuse.
What if attorney, the foreigner, didn't ask her to resign and she just wanted to live with him and then just she's getting an X amount of money from him monthly, and then if they break up, can she legally sue the foreigner for economic abuse? Because obviously when they're broken up, the guy is not responsible
Course,
in the
you're not
first
anymore
place.
responsible to send money, of course. That's why I mentioned all the different acts by which economic abuse may be committed, because it's a totality of evidence. It's not the mere fact that the woman did not have a job and it's dependent on you, but there must be it's coupled with the act of like sabotage employment, like you're preventing the woman from becoming employed, or you're asking her not to go to work, or you're imprisoning her inside the home so that she's not able to work. All right, so that's sabotage of work. And it's not mere act of not going to work or not wanting to or resigning from work. It should be coupled by the act of sabotaging, or that you're limiting the income, or that you make sure that the woman is incapable of doing things without money because you're limiting the money that goes into her. So that's
Okay, so
economic.
let's say attorney, let's say he didn't stop the support, they're still dating, but from 10,000, he's only giving her 5,000 a month for her allowance. Can the girl still sue him?
Right, not necessarily though. I mean, that's unfair for the foreigner. Foreigners are not your employers. That has to be clear. Foreigners are your boyfriends, and boyfriends or husbands are not even sources of income. They can help you, support you, all right, but that doesn't mean that if they stop giving you money, then that doesn't automatically become economic abuse. It has to be coupled with abuse.
But they need proof, right?
Of course, of course. Yeah, not mere allegations without corroborating evidence. Sometimes it's just a scrap of paper.
So yeah, the family can lie for the Filipina, right? And
Yeah.
considering how many family members a Filipina can have, like the whole barangay.
Sometimes it can be, syndicated. When I say syndicated, they've been doing it for years and they know what to do. They know who to contact. They know the testimonies that will work in court. So Filipinas live in the Philippines and they know the rules better than the foreigners.
So they have the upper hand. I hate to say that, but I know it's the reality. So that's why we're here, guys, to
Yeah.
give you the heads up. Let me tell you about someone I heard about, attorney. There's a man that was accused of sneaking into his neighbor's house, and assaulting a woman who lived there. And the man totally denied it. And he said the woman only accused him because they used to date and she was pissed at him. And the guy was arrested and he was put in jail. And somehow he's been there for over a year already. So every time he's scheduled to see the judge, the woman's attorney just keeps asking for an extension. And he's already done it about 4 times. Just how long can they keep you in prison without hearing your case?
Well, first comment is that this is the worst case scenario we've been talking about, right? That's the worst thing that can happen to a foreigner in the Philippines. To be imprisoned, that's the worst place here. All right. What I'm saying is that we have the so-called speedy trial in the Philippines, all right, which means that the accused has the right to speedy trial. What I'm getting from the story is that he was merely imprisoned for a mere allegation. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if that's a mere allegation, trial has to ensure that the allegations are corroborated by evidence. All right. So if you've said that it's been a year, they were resetting 4 times, the foreigner can actually invoke his right to speedy trial as an accused, and that his case must be heard in courts. And it's been taking years, as you've said, for resettings, and that's already violative of his right to speedy trial. What I know is that if the evidence then is strong, then the foreigner can be held in prison for as long as the hearing or the trial doesn't end. All right, and
So
you can
they
only
basically, attorney, they can keep you in jail on suspicion. What if the woman's family was the witness?
Yeah, well, you mentioned it's a mere suspicion. Of course, by mere suspicion, it's not enough. There's no weight in a mere suspicion. There has to be corroborative evidence. There has to be testimonies. It has to have a weight. The allegations must have a weight. All right. So by mere suspicion, you cannot stay in jail. We have steps to follow in court. All right. They cannot just get you in and then you wait for your hearing. All right. The proper procedure should have been that once you're imprisoned, then you go through arraignment, you go through pre-trial, and then you can actually even post bail. Maybe he's a flight risk. He might go out of the country. So maybe they argued that he must not be given bail because of his propensity to go out of the country and not face criminal liabilities.
Attorney, what if you spend years in jail and they let you go? Can you sue for false imprisonment?
Yeah, they can actually countersue. So any statements made in court, just such as in judicial affidavits, in the complaints, in the allegations, those are actually made under oath. So if it was later on proven that the Filipina or the victim made lies in court, you can actually sue for perjury, for example. And then you can file for damages, for example, because your liberty were limited or your liberty was restricted because of mere false allegations or testimonies from an alleged victim.
We're not trying to scare you guys. At least you know.
Now you know, and now you will be very careful about it.
Okay, so if you need any legal advice and if you need Attorney Batula's help, I'll leave his contact info in the description box and in the pinned comment. And Attorney, thank you so much for your time today. I know it is a
Anytime.
lot. It was kind of scary. If I were a guy, I'm now scared.
Yeah, I'm also scared, even as a Filipino, but it's all worth the risk.
As a guy, do you think women are still worth it?
Of course, it's still worth it. I mean, that's the price you pay for risking it all. I mean, if you really want to find somebody, sometimes you find a good one, sometimes you find a bad one, and that's the risk you take just to find the right person.
Ah, again, attorney, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate
And
it. Bye for now. If you think about it, I'm kind of like a fisherman, helping you get a little nibble on the end of your pole. If you're trying to hook a Filipina, it doesn't matter what line you use, how long your rod is, or even the size of your worm. The important thing is finding the right hole so you can reel in a good one. I can tell you what bait to use to lure a Filipina. And if you get a scammer on the line, I can show you how to smell something fishy so you can throw her back. Now, the best way to get a Filipino fishing lesson is to join my Patreon page, where I hang out in the chat rooms to give you free advice, and where you can also see exclusive videos and features. And remember, there's always more fish in the sea.